Hey guys, Rob here, and today you join me for episode 30 of How It Was Made. This is the custom model of the Ferrari F360 Challenge race car. Now this is the real car that I base this model on. There's actually videos on YouTube about this car, so I use those videos for picture reference. Now I'm starting off with this Hot Wheels Elite 360 Modena. It had a bit of paint rash, so I decided to make this custom model. And these are some parts from a 430 Challenge race car that I'm going to use. First I disassembled the whole model into pieces, ready to strip the paint off this die-cast body. Now this real car actually has an F430 race car bumper bar, so I cut the bumper off this old F430 Hot Wheels Elite model, and I'm going to retrofit that to the 360. All the paint was then stripped, and I ground off the top part of the 430 bumper bar, and in preparation to mount it to the body I just mark out the wheel arch shape with the old bumper, trim the new bumper to make it fit, and make sure that the wheel arch is a perfect circle. Just test fitting with these BBS wheels from Uli Noack and working on the custom front splitter made out of 1mm styrene sheet. I added some vertical extensions to it, glued those to the bumper bar, and then glued the splitter to that. I also wanted to lower that front opening, so I added another piece of styrene, and with another piece of bent styrene formed a new opening. I then used some Tamiya putty to fill up the join lines. Now I have to add some race fuel fillers, so I marked out the locations and drilled out the die cast on both sides. And these are the old race fillers from the F430 Hot Wheels model. This turns it into a challenge car, and I filled the old fuel flap. Just marking out some holes for the center exhausts. Again, these parts came from the Hot Wheels Elite 430 Challenge car, and I filled up and sanded the old fuel flap. A little bit of grey primer again to see where I need to add some more body filler, but the overall shape and fitment works well on the 360. I just used a wing blade from Legend Miniatures and some custom wing legs. I made the end plates out of some 0.5mm styrene sheet, and this is basically a copy of the original car's rear wing. Just checking the stance of the model now. This does sit quite low, so I'm really happy with that. Next I'm trying a new method of painting the stripes on, so I just draw those on some masking tape first, just to get the general proportions. I then stick the masking tape to some card and then cut them out. Moving on to the interior, I want to remove all this old flocking carpet. Now a friend told me to use Goo Gone, and that actually dissolves all the old carpeting, which is really good. These are some old seats also from a F430 Hot Wheels Elite Challenge race car, same as this roll cage, and I'll be retrofitting these into the 360 interior. A little bit of trimming here and there to make sure the roll cage fits inside the body, and I used my gas lighter and just heated up the front bars and bent them to fit around the dashboard. The rear section of the roll cage here had to be cut out so that the hinges of the rear hatch would close. Just test fitting the roll cage inside the body and with the dashboard in place, and it all seems to fit okay at this stage. Next I applied some 2K white primer to the whole body. While that was drying I worked on the seat belts using some photo etched buckles and some 3.5mm wide red ribbon, and added some say-belt labels. Interior pan was then sprayed in black Tamiya paint, test fitting the roll cage and the seats again, and the steering wheel on the left is the 360 steering wheel. The steering wheel on the right, as you see here, is actually from an FXX Enzo race car, so a bit more of a race inspired steering wheel for this racing model. I then used my templates and cut out some templates out of some office labels. This is an easy way to get shaped stripes onto the body, and then I will spray the body black as you see here Now the masking has not been removed yet. I painted over the whole lot and then I pulled the masking stripes off, which reveal the white colour from underneath. Just a little couple of touch-ups here and there on the edges of the stripes, but overall this method works okay. I then added the decals, which were custom made by TK Diecast, links in the description, but unfortunately the white colour was a little bit off, not quite as bright as the white stripes, so I got him to reprint them for me. I then painted and assembled the wheels, added some Ferrari decals, and these are the stock Hot Wheels Elite discs that I'm going to be reusing. I glued those onto the backing plates, and then these backing plates glue in behind the wheels. Wheels are not going to roll on this model, that doesn't bother me too much, but this is how basically the body will look with the wheels underneath. Now I'm using these F430 Hot Wheels Elite door trims. I just trim them down so that they actually sit inside the metal lip of the 360 doors. As you see here, the original door trims had to be destroyed as they were glued on. These are the new decals applied, which are much whiter, the numbers 24 Challenge, and then I clear coated the body in some 2K clear. Really happy with how the paint finish came out, super glossy, and for once I didn't get any dust in the gloss finish. So I let this dry thoroughly before I start to handle the model. Started with the fuel fillers, glued those in from behind. I then glued in the side windows from behind, and then I started to add the mesh pieces and the exhaust outlets and tow hook on the rear bumper bar. The tail lights were then re-glued back into the body, and I also added the mesh in the lower air ducts and the upper air ducts in the sides of the body, and then I added the front mesh to the front bumper bar. Door trims were then glued into the 360 doors. I pulled out the original lenses, painted the headlight buckets white and refitted the headlight lenses. I then glued the clear body into the die-cast body and glued the headlight buckets back in. Screwed the doors back in place, then screwed the dashboard back in place, and then I screwed the rear hatchback in and glued the rear window on the model, followed by the front window in the model. Front bumper bar was then glued off because I was using the 430 bumper bar, so the tabs did not line up as per the old 360 bumper bar, but I just kept assembling the models, floor pan and interior reinserted. I then glued on the wheels front and back, checked the stance, and then added some hood latches and some emblems and logos front and rear. So I glued the rear wing on, then gave the model a little bit of a polish up, and that's how it turned out. So this model only took me around 2 weeks to build, so I built it pretty quick. It was just a fill-in really in the display cabinet, as I said, the old model had some paint rash appearing, so it was just a quick flip just to turn it into something that looks a little bit better. And overall I'm pretty happy with the model, considering it only took 2 weeks to build. There are a couple of little areas where I wished I would have paid a little bit more attention, but as I said, it's really just a shelf filler for the display cabinet. So overall I think it looks a lot meaner than the original 360 Moderna. You can't really get a decent model of a 360 Challenge race car, so this is a pretty cool model to have sitting on the shelf with my other assortment of F360 Ferrari models. So as I mentioned, reasonably happy with it. A couple of little areas that could be improved upon, but that is the 360 Moderna race car that I just built. So if you're new to the channel, why not subscribe? Don't forget to smash that like button and stay tuned, plenty more model reviews and custom models to come. So until next time, thanks for watching Rob's Model Cars.